starting on a turbo replacement project or turbo upgrade project on the bus. So some of you might have remembered on our maiden trip home with this bus, we had a turbo breakdown on the way home, and I had stopped at my mechanic's house and essentially borrowed a turbo from him. This is the turbo that was in the bus. This is not supposed to do that, completely toast, passing a lot of oil. And basically what I figured is that if I was going to buy a new turbo, that I wanted to upgrade a little bit while I was at it. So we've got an upgrade here. I don't know if you can see the difference in the size of those hot housing turbine wheels, but that's a little bit bigger. So this has got a, explain the difference between these two. So this is a TV7511. This is a turbo from a transit bus application. It's not, not too much boost out of this thing. It spools up fast because it's small. I mean, the bus practically leaps off the line with this little turbo, but it doesn't flow real well, according to my mechanic Joe. So the TV7511, and what we're doing here is we're replacing it with a TV8101. Is what this guy is. And we did a little bit of hot housing thinking on this thing, and so this has got an AR of 0.96. We went up just a little bit on this hot housing. This has got an AR of 1.29, if I recall correctly. And, on the intake side, you can kind of see the difference in the size of those wheels, right? So this turbo is not going to spool as fast as that one, but it should flow better and make more power. I've got to clock these correctly. This one did not come clocked as it should have been. You can kind of see where things are set in here. I got them set in the same way. Intake, exhaust, needs to get spun. The center is in the wrong position as well. So I need to loosen up these clamps and rotate these housings. And when you retighten them, there's a very specific procedure required. Basically, it's 100 inch-pounds. And when you're tightening them, you need to go around with a punch and hammer 4 to 5 times. And work your way around those clamps. Tap, 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 tap all the way around to seat this as you're, retorquing these large clamps here to make sure they're seated correctly all the way around and not breaking anything. And that's in inch-pounds. So I need to convert that to foot-pounds. I think it's something like 8 foot-pounds, not very much. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Isn't this new turbo beautiful? This thing it's a thing of beauty. All right, I got the turbo off of there now. Working by myself, so not really able to shoot video when I need both hands. But yeah, turbo's off, intake's off, exhaust is off because I'm redoing the exhaust as well. So I brought it over onto the workbench. I brought, it's easier to remove it with this chunk of exhaust on it, just because of the way it's got to come out of there. So there's the new one. I've clocked this as best as I can as far as, matching up the angles. I did measure them with a digital protractor. It may be a degree or two off, so I might have to make an adjustment on that, but hopefully not. So yeah, next step, I'm gonna remove these studs here, take this exhaust off, put it on over here with some Never Sees and a new gasket, which I've got right there, and stick it back on with some help. This assembly is kind of heavy to be negotiating positioning stuff with all that weight and not messing up a seal or things like that. So hopefully I can get a hand from a neighbor with that final positioning when I got to lift that up on there. Well, we got that new turbo in there, the intake, new intake, and new exhaust with resonator. Tip, we changed the location where the exhaust comes out from straight back to the side. We got rid of that big old restricted muffler that was in here. We had to fabricate some stuff. This custom bracket right there, we had to make that. Custom intake, turbo intake, had to make that. That's fabricated out of aluminum, 5-inch tube. This is pretty cool. On the 6V92 TA, to have that air cleaner in there. I don't know if you can see it. That's a Donaldson Eco Light. And that comes out of there with a 7-inch diameter hole on the side of that into this Cobra head intake, which goes from a 7 to a 5. And then it's got to make that jog to go into the turbo. And we've got a silicone hump hose there. This turbo, this has got the 123 hot side housing. And this is the TV8101. And basically, one difference there is this guy. This goes from, I think it's a 3.5 to 4. So you had to get a special hose there. The old turbo was just a straight through deal on that. And the exhaust just comes out, makes a 90, goes straight down into this Donaldson resonator, 9-inch. Custom bracket off the side of the engine there, down to a 90, and then just right out the side with the tip. Custom, huh? Sounds pretty good too. All right, so we're working on the bus here with my buddy Joe, and he made an observation about this spin-on adapter for the oil filter, and that is that it was leaking around the top, not from the filter, but leaking from the adapter itself. And Joe says that in all of his many years of experience, all of these spin-on adapters fail. The seal internally fails like this O-ring. And when that happens, you're not getting oil filtration anymore. The oil filter is not doing anything and it's leaking. And his recommendation was to remove this and go back to your cartridge. If you can't get the real Detroit part that goes on the engine that accepts a spin-on adapter or spin-on cartridge,
filter base, yeah,
then you got to go back to the cartridge, because this will ruin your engine because your engine's just not getting filtration.
Yep. And they'll put them in dry, and like this one's scooched off to one side, and I don't know whether they put it in wrong, but it blew out.
It might have been wrong all the whole time. Right?
Sure.
Could have been messed
From
up.
the minute they put it in it. See, that's the problem. There's no guarantee on this. This bitch can cost you thousands.
Oh, yeah.
Or if it works, it's fine. But if it doesn't, it's just trouble. Stud goes in with a copper washer on it.
Here, the copper washer's on the
On the bottom.
on the bottom side. Okay. A spring.
Spring goes in. Washer goes on top of the spring. Seal goes on top of the washer. And the filter holder goes right there.
Okay.
And then the nut goes on top to keep all the junk in there so you don't mess up the next time if you pour it out. Like once a year or something, you'd pull that seal out of there, or like for you, it'd probably be every 5 years, and put a new seal in it. There's probably an AC part number for that, so you may be able to get it from AC, like a parts store. I don't know if it's a direct Detroit part or not.
You want to hold that?
God, it doesn't have to be very tight. In fact, I put it too tight just then. So, next
Now we get
little
the filter
item.
right here.
That's right, baby. All over. I'm going to pour it full of oil a little ways first.
I got some Dello in the shop in there. I don't have to use yours.
No, I stole this out of there.
Okay.
Doesn't really matter what oil goes in it as long as it passes spec.
Well, I found I like the Dello 140 weight best.
Why?
I just like the way it seems to hold viscosity longer in my rigs. I mean, I've only run that in the Delvac, and I kind of like it better than that. I like the Dello better than the Delvac.
Well, when Penske took Detroit, he was racing and he had Mobil as a sponsor, so he tied him into Detroit and had him sell their product there. So that's how that got to be. But the what I've discovered is the Mobil stuff isn't as good as I'd like it to be.
Right. I got no problem with the chevron stuff though. Now that's going to lay in there at a little bit of an angle, so you probably want to leave a little bit of air, because otherwise we're going to have a little bath. Some video of this too.
Come on, baby. Oh, fuck.
You want a hand? You want to come around over there and kind of help hold that?
Well, it ain't the holding it. I'm falling off the fucking ladder.
Yeah, and it's leaking out the bottom too. Oh,
That part doesn't bother me. That's the other part I was going to do. I was going to test fit this before we put oil in it, but I got ahead of myself.
Okay, now I'm seeing the appeal of a spin-on.
Huh?
Now I'm seeing the appeal of a spin-on, because you don't have to deal with that nut or that bolt going
Stud,
in
yeah.
the middle. Yeah.
It'd be better if the bus was over about 1.5 feet, so you could get a straight shot at it and just back up to where the tires are at the edge of the pit. So